Hello and welcome to Pop Culture with Keri Smith and Mystery Chris. Today is Wednesday, February 23rd. Hello, Mr. Chris. How are you?
Good. How you doing, Keri?
I'm good. We got that video to work.
Yay!
You guys, this is only we did a test live video. This is our second live. This is our first official live video, second episode of Pop Culture. And we're glad that you're joining us. If you missed the first episode, we talked about the worst sitcom ever made. Maybe not the worst sitcom, but the most offensive sitcom ever made. And you can still go watch that episode. Do you want to tell them a little bit about what was in it?
Yeah, so that was an episode where we talked about a show from 1990 called Howl, Honey, I'm Home, which starred Hitler as its main character in this weird fictional 1930s sitcom. And it's him living with Ava Braun in a apartment in Berlin, and their next door neighbors are Jews. So yeah,
it's the weirdest thing. I'm sorry, I'm still talking about it because if you had told me that existed without showing it to me, I would have thought you were
It does seem like that. Well, it's interesting. I also read that the couple who played the Jewish couple next door, initially both of them had tried out for Hitler and Ava, and both of them were like, "Well, we think we'll probably be better as a Jewish couple," and so they did that. So.
Wow. I was blown away. First of all, thank you to everyone in the chat. And we did get your comments about our test episode and the sound being off. If you could just tell us, is Chris's microphone okay? We cranked it up.
Sibilance.
Yeah. I think it should be fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Oh, Therese says, yeah, if you want to watch the whole episode of that show, we just discussed it. But if you want to see the whole episode, it is on YouTube. You can watch it. They actually filmed, was it 8 episodes?
8 episodes. It's supposed to be 16. They filmed 8. Only one of them aired, and then it got canceled. And there's debate as to why it got canceled. Some people say it's from controversy. Other people say it's because Rupert Murdoch's company bought that satellite company and decided to cancel it and go with American shows. So.
Oh, it should have been because it never should have been made. It never should have been made. Oh gosh.
Yeah, I love trying to get in the mind of people who create stuff like that, art like that, and trying to understand what was their intent. What did it ever make sense? Was there any point in the process where I was like, okay, yeah, I get it, and then it just got warped, or just never really made sense, or for whatever reason it just kept going and going?
Yeah, that show is kind of appropriate for bringing up with what we're doing today, because you have pulled some artwork for me that you're going to test me with later. If you guys stick around, we're going to do a test at the end, because today we're asking the question, is it possible to separate the art from the artist? And we're going to talk about that a little bit. And then at the end, we're going to do a test and see if it's possible to judge an awful person by their art. And I don't know. You're gonna show me some paintings, and I'm gonna see if I can guess which belongs to awful people, and then we'll do some songs too.
Sounds fun.
First of all, Cole, can you bring up that first article? While he's bringing this up, we can read from it a little bit, but just generally, you and I have talked about this before, so I know some of your thoughts. But do you think it's possible to separate the art from the artist? It's a question Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. I think it is, and we were talking a little bit before we start rolling, but as in one of the articles you're going to talk about, I think if the art is separate from any kind of message, negative message that artist or person was trying to put out, if someone, who's, it becomes revealed is a child abuser sexually or just in general, if the art that they produce was advocating that some way, if people start to see it and understand that maybe they were advocating for something along those lines, then yeah, I think it changes things. But otherwise, I tend to not think that.
I think it completely depends, and maybe we can throw out some examples of ones that we just can't tolerate anymore now that we know they're terrible, and others that we can separate, because I don't know what the defining line is. But this article is interesting. This is a piece that it's called Opinion. Should we separate art from the artist? And this one's interesting because it gives us a list of qualifiers, a list of points that can help us do this. But I'll just start at the top because you can get a perspective of where this person's coming from, which is probably on the left, a little bit on the left. But it says, in recent years, celebrities and artists have been constantly revealed to be problematic in one or multiple ways. From comedian Chris D'Elia to President Donald Trump. Is he an artist? I know George Bush is an artist.
It's a hair art stylist, I guess. Maybe that counts. I don't know.
Accusations of damaging behavior and sexual assault have taken over weeks' worth of news cycles, beginning with the accusation of Harvey Weinstein. It is almost universally agreed upon that the actions of those who have committed these acts must be aggressively addressed. However, as these celebrities often make works that are beloved by many people, it leaves the public wondering, can we, in some situations, separate the art from the artist? Can we love a book, a movie, or series without condoning reprehensible behavior? The short answer to this question is not satisfying. It depends. It depends on a multitude of factors. Due to the complexity of this issue, the answer is not black and white. So they have a list of questions to help you decide. So I thought we could go through these and see if these are really valid. Number one, is the art reflective of the person's horrible actions? Louis C.K. was a successful comedian who, during the Me Too movement, was accused of sexual misconduct by multiple women. His actions were heinous and caused a lot of harm to these women and their loved ones. After he received these accusations, he decided that he would release a comedy special where he made a number of jokes about his many allegations from the previous years. In this case, it is impossible to separate the art from the artist's actions because the art is reflective of the wrongdoings C.K. committed. Not only are the wrongdoings mentioned in the comedy special, but they are joked about. This art, along with this artist, is extremely harmful and therefore should not be separated. What do you think about that?
And that was Louis C.K. said this before.
What do you mean?
Was that just a quote from Louis C.K.? Was that?
No, that this is a person reading this. They basically,
okay.
I mean, this is a person's opinion. It's an opinion piece. They're basically saying because he was accused of all these Me Too scandals, and I don't know if do you remember all the different ones?
Yes. Yeah, I remember some of that.
So then when he came back, and he did kind of take a break from the spotlight for a while, and he took a break from the media, and he stopped doing shows for a little while. And then when he came back and did a comedy special, they just flipped out. Like, how dare he come back and try to do comedy again? And this person is saying, I think it's funny because they're telling you outright what opinion to have. It is impossible. It's impossible to separate him from his art, right?
Even in his case, though, he wasn't like accused of like flat out sexual assault. He was just weirdo, just like asking to do things in front of women, which is really weird. But I was always surprised at, it's weird, no doubt, but it was just, I was kind of surprised at some of the I guess the ways people looked at those incidents compared to other things that we know certain people in Hollywood like to engage in.
Yeah. Like Roman Polanski.
Yeah.
I mean, that's actual child rape. And they don't seem to have a problem with that. But Louis C.K. being gross. I think out of all the allegations I heard about him, I don't know if you'll agree with me, but almost every story I heard, it's like, yeah, he's disgusting. And yeah, he's trying to use his fame to coerce people into these situations. But they could say no. Right. Like, that's their choice. Except for there was one story where it was a woman he worked with on set. Now that's completely different. They're working together. It's not a two different people in a voluntary situation. It's a workplace situation. But like the story where he was at the comedy festival and the two girls came up to his room and then he started engaging in this sexual behavior. It's like, you can leave the room. Right?
Yeah. Take the plant with them.
Yeah. I don't get that one. So I disagree with this person on this one. Can you read the second one, or is that too small?
A little small.
Can you make that a little bigger, Cole, so we can see it? I don't know if you can do that. You guys give it up for Cole, who's doing our tech today. I'll read this one while you're trying to make it bigger. So number 2, this is the second question to ask. Has this art already had an impact on society? Okay, well, if that's a relevant question, why didn't you ask that about Louis C.K.? Okay, so here we go. Now this person's going to bring up J.K. Rowling. Many artists create pieces of art that have a lasting impact on society. Art can change the lives of millions, and this should be taken into account when deciding whether to continue to support the art in question. J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter series, has written novels that have had a substantial impact on a large number of people's lives. Harry Potter has proven to be more than a character to many people. Earlier this year, Rowling posted a blog post where she expressed concerns about the transgender movement that is occurring. I don't think that's what she said. She said biological sex is real. She didn't say, I have concerns about the transgender movement. Her comments made in this blog post are extremely damaging to those in the transgender community. That's not true.
What does that even mean?
Yeah, what does that extremely damaging mean? And how can you speak on behalf of a community like that?
Right.
And therefore, she received major backlash from this. While what Rowling said and did was very hateful. Okay, again, that you're saying that like it's a fact. It's not. That she didn't say anything hateful. She said biological sex is real. Okay, so while what she said and did was very hateful, her work has influenced the lives of thousands. As Daniel Radcliffe wrote in a response to Rowling's transphobia, they're calling it transphobia, quote, if these books taught you that love is the strongest force in the universe, then that is between you and the book that you read, and it is sacred, end quote. To cancel the entire Harry Potter world that she has created would cause more harm than good for many people. In this case, it would be ideal to separate her from her work due to the impact her work has had on society.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't agree. These are two very different standards. Right? Like, how is it in one case it's like how much of an impact has your work had? In the other case, it's can you separate? The first question is like, can you separate it? Which is what I thought the whole piece was about. Okay. Anyway, third point. Will canceling this art harm innocent people? Movie and television sets consist of hundreds of people. Therefore, a movie or a television show is not defined by one actor. Boycotts of a movie or television show hurt more than just the actor they are trying to combat. These boycotts can harm the crew and writers who have worked tirelessly to make this movie or show a success. Kevin Spacey faced multiple sexual assault allegations in the year 2017. In the year 2018, the movie in which he had a supporting role, Billionaire Boys Club, was set to air. The movie production team decided to air the movie, given that Spacey's role was minimal and the amount of work that the crew and the rest of the cast had already put into the film. Sadly, when the film aired, it was considered to be a flop and only made $126 million on opening night. This boycott not only had a devastating impact on Spacey, but also the rest of the cast and crew who had spent the time and money on this project. These innocent people were impacted by the actions of their co-star in a substantial way. In this case, separating art from the artist is essential in recognizing the work that others have put in. Why does that not apply to Louis C.K.?
Right.
I mean, because he had a movie coming out as well. And
he directed Pootie Tang.
He directed Pootie Tang. That had a major...
I have that on DVD, so it's close to home.
That had a major impact on society.
Yes.
That fulfills obligation number 2. I mean, isn't that what she's saying? She's like, okay, cancel Louis C.K. because it's impossible to separate him because his art is about the things that we're angry about. Don't cancel J.K. Rowling because her art had such a big impact on society. But that's objective. Mm-hmm. That's subjective, right?
Yeah, I mean, Louis C.K., like Chris Rock, said a lot of things that people were thinking, but he and Chris Rock and other comedians are very good at kind of crystallizing that and expressing it in a way that makes people, it reveals some kind of truth in the way they tell their jokes about, certain things that are going on in society, certain things that we all are thinking, but, want to express. And so you could make, like you're saying, make the same argument for Louis C.K. and the impact that he had on, discourse or people looking at, society. Chappelle is in the same vein of getting people to think about certain things from a different point of view or a different perspective. So yeah, the same thing applies.
Where do you think this woman would stand on Chappelle? And by the way, I have to say hail to Ryan, who's in the chat from RK Outpost.
Ryan.
Hello, Ryan. I can't believe you're in here. I thought you're on the Blaze right now, or you were. I got to meet him today. He was so kind, and see him. And I know you watched their show, Mystery Chris.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's really cool. Thanks for being in chat. Yeah. So, what do you think this woman would say about Dave Chappelle?
Well, I mean, if she's defending railing on trans stuff and saying that she had an impact on society or in terms of the fiction she wrote, then I would assume she would say the same thing. I don't know if maybe she's more concerned with the feminist aspect of, the, victims, I'll say quote unquote victims of Louis C.K. being, women. I'm guessing maybe that's to her bias that she's analyzing this with.
I think she would actually, I think you're right. I think she would defend Chappelle, but it's because he's Black.
Mm.
I think she would say his work has had a major impact in discussing race relations, and therefore we can she would accuse him of transphobia like she's doing J.K. Rowling, but she would say we can excuse it because it's had a major impact, not like Pootie Tang.
Oh.
So before we get into some of the art pieces that you brought, I mean, this is something I've debated this question a lot, and I'm just wondering what some of your general thoughts are on it, because I can't figure out, for me, I'm kind of like this woman, even though I'm making fun of her, I'm all over the map. There are some artists whose art I cannot appreciate. I can't separate them for some reason. I don't know why. One of them is Tom Cruise. He's on my list.
Why?
I don't know why.
The weird Scientology stuff. Yeah.
I don't know if it's because he's a weird Scientologist. Actually, I think it's just because, well, he is a weird Scientologist, and I can't get that image of him jumping out of the couch out of my head. Like when he's on the Oprah. Yeah. And so when I see him in a movie, I can't forget that he's Tom Cruise, the weirdo, and I can't get into the movie. Does that happen to you with anyone?
It's starting to get that way with Star Trek a little bit. Hearing some of the comments that some of the actors from TNG made, it does kind of make me look at. I still love TNG, but it does kind of make me look at some of those characters a little bit differently. Still great characters, but the actors who played them, their philosophies are not aligned with that of the characters or the makers of the show.
What do you mean?
So, well, yeah, you haven't. See, we're going to do a Star Trek episode in the near future. Make Keri watch some Star Trek episodes, but you're not going to know who I'm talking about. But Marina Sirtis, who plays Counselor Troy on TNG, she made some comments after the winter storm here in Texas last year, in which she basically said that we Texans deserved it because we didn't vote Beto into office.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was like, how can someone play an empath? Because the character is empathic. How can someone play an empath on a television show for 7 years but lack any empathy whatsoever about people who disagree with her politically? And it's just, I get the whole sense from like pretty much most of that crew, the actors that played that, how a lot of them say like horrible things about people they don't like politically. And it's a little hard, but I just love Star Trek so much that I can kind of get over it. So,
but that would sort of be on your list of almost crossing the line where it makes the art unwatchable for you, because
not unwatchable, but it's on my mind. I think about it. Like, it's hard to immerse myself in sometimes those episodes, especially if a character does something that goes counter to what Picard in the new series would do, what Patrick Stewart clearly wants Picard to do. And so I'm like, it also makes me sad too. Just a wave of sadness, just thinking about that, because it's not just them saying things on Twitter. I mean, clearly when they're kind of getting their way in terms of writing the characters, or they just don't care the way the characters are in on the new iterations of Star Trek. It does kind of make me look at some of the stuff in the past differently. Not worse, but it's on my mind. So it's a little hard for me to fully immerse myself in it.
By the way, I don't know if you can see the chat. We haven't figured all this out yet. Can you see what people are saying? Because they know exactly what you're talking about. I don't.
Oh yeah,
they're all Star Trek.
Oh, you will, Keri. You will. Let me talk like Yoda. You will.
Yeah, there are people agreeing with you. We don't have super chats yet, guys. So we do have a subscribe star, but we have to get a certain number of views on this new channel before we have super chats. But I'll just read some of the chat. TNG has been ruined for me by the actor's recent comments. That's Scott Miller. I mean, she's nothing like her character in real life. Mm-hmm. Crash says, and then somebody says, "OG Star Trek only." Yeah.
Yeah, this same woman, when Kirstie Alley came out as a Trump supporter, Marina Sirtis tweeted back at her in all caps, "You're dead to me." And then like Michael Dorn to play Worf, like retweeted it or something, or gave it a heart, that little like. I'm like, stop, just stop, please. And then LeVar Burton plays Geordi. You know who LeVar Burton is.
I know LeVar Burton is.
When he was defending cancel culture, he's basically going that argument, saying, it's not about canceling, it's about consequences.
Oh gosh, I hate when they say that.
Yep.
They just repeat, they hear a phrase that someone else has said and they think it's clever, and then they adopt it as their own. It's a kind of lying, I think. Yeah. It's that kind of lying that Jordan Peterson talks about, where not that you can't believe that, but if you haven't given it proper thought to decide if you really believe that or not, if you're just repeating it because it helps squash dissent and you heard somebody else say it, I think that's kind of like lying.
Yeah.
Like, that's not really your well thought out opinion, right?
Someone should do like a skit of Reading Rainbow, but where they burn books instead of read them. That would be great.
I was thinking, can I tell the chat we're going to do some sketch videos on this channel. Can I tell them one of yours, or should we save it as a surprise?
I don't know. Go ahead. Whatever.
Well, you can tell them. It's the one about the white family who has a black ghost.
Yeah. So the white family is so overcome with white guilt that when they move into a new house, they find out it's haunted by an old sassy black woman, but they have so much white guilt that they refuse to move, and so they just slowly go insane while this annoying like black sassy woman continues to talk during movies and interrupt the teenage son when he's on the couch making out with his girlfriend.
We have to make this, but I want you to play the sassy black woman.
I've watched all the Tyler Perry movies. I'm ready.
You have a lot of funny ideas there. I was thinking of that one today. Okay, so what are some other artists? Because I'm still trying to figure out what is that dividing line. I don't exactly know why I have that line for Tom Cruise, but I do.
So, go ahead, sorry.
No, you go ahead.
So I made a list of ones off the top of my head. Of course, Polanski, I think we briefly mentioned that before we went on air. Like, I have not seen all of Chinatown. I want to, but then part of me is like, I'm not giving money to him, but like in the article says, there's a lot of other people who worked on these movies and shows and stuff. So it's more like supporting them than supporting him. Bryan Singer, which I guess he is just a legend.
Oh,
I don't think he's been convicted of anything, but he did the first two X-Men movies and the Superman movie, which I'll never watch again because it's terrible anyway. So I'm not losing anything with that one, but the two X-Men ones, I'm like, and then of course Cosby, which he's free man now. So
you can separate Cosby from, like, you can watch old Cosby episodes.
I can, and I can still listen to some of his old stand-up, which I still think it's funny, but yeah, still.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't actually have a problem with, maybe it's because I think a director, I shouldn't think this, but they're not on screen. I'm not looking at them unless they're Woody
Mhm.
Allen. And he's in almost all of his movies, and I can't really separate him. But I think that's just because I don't like the way he looks or talks. So I like his movies that he's not in a lot. But yeah, for most directors, you don't see them, and so I'm not confronted with if I don't like them. Like Bryan Singer, I think he's gross, but I'm not thinking about him when I'm watching that movie. And the same thing for Roman Polanski. I mean, I really like Rosemary's Baby. I'm going to watch that, even though I think he's a monster.
What about R. Kelly?
Oh, you know what? That one's hard for me to answer because I'm not really an R. Kelly aficionado. What is this picture, Cole? Can you see that? Oh, it's Bryan Singer, Matt Lauer, and
Weinstein,
Harvey
Harvey Weinstein.
Weinstein, and a couple of other usual suspects. Kevin Spacey. I see. You know who needs to be on there is Jeffrey Toobin.
Just naked.
I like that surprise picture.
Kevin Spacey's a weird one too because you saw the videos he released after he got fired from House of Cards. He came out with these weird, creepy videos. Like one where it's like,
oh yeah,
they came out Christmas time. Like one, I forget what year. One came out one year, and the other one the following year. And like the last one he did, I don't think he did one this past Christmas, but the last one he did, he was in character, I put those in quotes, talking like Frank Underwood and saying something weird. And then he transitions to like suicide prevention. And it's odd because like 3 of his accusers like ended up like committing suicide, supposedly.
Really?
Yeah. It's really weird. So it's like if I watch House of Cards now, I'm like, well, he's just playing himself. Allegedly.
Isn't he friends with the Clintons?
I think.
Just,
Did he go to Epstein's Island? There were a lot of people who went to Epstein's
oh,
Island.
he did.
Maybe.
Yeah, he was on
Yeah.
that plane several times,
Yeah.
from what I remember. I know he was on there with Bill Clinton and Chris Tucker.
Chris Tucker's on no.
Yeah.
Chris, no, man.
I'm pretty sure. In the
All
chat,
right.
tell me if I'm wrong. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought those 3 were on one of the plane rides together.
Well, I'm crossing out Rush Hour 1 through 3 on my list. Can't watch those anymore.
Yeah, Alan Scott is confirming what you said in chat. He said, didn't a lot of people that were pressing charges against Spacey end up dead?
Yeah, isn't that so weird?
That is
Maybe
strange.
gave a call to Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, I think that guy is a straight up sociopath.
Yeah.
There's a behavior channel I like to watch on YouTube called the Body Language Ghost, and she has a great video where she examines his body language in one of the court proceedings, and he's just chilling. He makes me think of just the way that his smiles, everything's off. His body language is just slightly off in a way that you can't really explain why it creeps you out, although she does a good job of explaining why. But even if you can't put your finger on it, the hair kind of stands up on the back of your neck. Like, he's kind of like that. Yeah. Okay, so here's a few I'm going to name. If you can separate the art from the artist. Kathy Griffin.
Well, I wasn't watching anything of hers to begin with, so yes, or no. I mean, no, because I don't watch it anyway. So.
Michael Jackson.
Yeah, and well, first of all, I didn't see the HBO thing. Everyone I talked to says it's pretty damning. I did watch Razor Fist, who covered that and is a defender of Michael Jackson. So I don't know, but I will say, like, he has such great music that he could overcome not 1 but 2 child molestation accusations, like court cases. Like, think about how like good of music you have to make in order to overcome those 2 things. Like, how many other artists could like survive that? But his music's so damn good. People are like, well, but Thriller.
Bowie.
I don't know, because I know he said that he thought that the girl was older, or she told him he's older. I don't know, but yeah, I think I can. Yeah,
I think I can I mean, I think
because
awful, but I can separate it.
And well, the thing is, there's so many artists that engaging with underage people, and a lot of times they talk about it in songs. And that's the other thing, like even if there's no proof that they did anything in their actual life, it's like in the music when they're making references to it, like especially a lot of hip-hop songs past. I know there's an Oingo Boingo song. Was that one song, she was 16 years old?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I was
You,
listening to that recently and thinking, I can't believe this hasn't been drug up from the past and canceled.
there's so many songs like that though, Keri. There's a ton. And so then I'm like, should I be listening to the song? Because even if they didn't do anything in real life, it's still in the music. Like that's
Yeah, the lyrics of that song, she's only 16 years old. It's like something like, or the video. He's like going to her house. Have you seen
yeah.
the music video? He goes
Yeah.
to her house and is trying to talk her up, and her parents are like, no, because she's got to get high school tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah.
Like middle school.
Nobody raised a red flag, no one on the record label or anything. It's like, maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you shouldn't put this as your main single. Like maybe it's a B-side, C-side.
A lot of the 50s songs had themes like that. And speaking of like the 50s, and Jerry Lee Lewis, didn't he marry a 13-year-old? Great Balls of Fire.
Maybe.
He did Edgar Allan Poe.
Elvis, Priscilla was younger.
Yeah, Priscilla was younger. Edgar Allan Poe married his 13-year-old cousin, which is disgusting. And he also wrote these brilliant, dark short stories that kind of put you in the mind of someone who is personality disordered, or put you in the mind of someone who has given themselves over to evil. We just read, for book club, we read Crime and Punishment, and it made me think a lot of Edgar Allan Poe's short story, The Black Cat. Do you remember that story?
I don't.
It's just it's a very short kind of version. I think if you don't want to read Crime and Punishment, read The Black Cat. It's just a couple pages long.
That I can do.
But it's in the mind of this person who's given themselves over to evil, and he does such a great job. And maybe something has to be dark in you to be able to write something that dark. I don't know.
Well, go ahead.
No, I thought you were going to say something about that. I have a couple more people to throw at you if not.
Yeah, go ahead.
You mentioned Gandhi.
Mm-hmm.
I know he's not an artist.
Yeah, well, first of all, like everyone in history is racist. I think I'm gonna write a book called "Everyone in History is Racist." It'll be 1 page long, and I'll just say that at the end. But yeah, he was very racist. Like he hated dark-skinned Africans. He called them Kaffir, which is basically the N-word, South African, Africana, whatever you call it. But he not only was very racist and thought that whites were the superior race. Allegedly, he's some people believe he had some underage relationships, and so yeah, that. But a lot of people that I look up to in the technology realm or engineering realm had some pretty dark aspects to him. I know Howard Hughes is one people I look up to, but he was very racist, wanted to hire blacks in his factories. Tesla bought into eugenics and stuff like that. And then Henry Ford, which been a Nazi sympathizer, a little anti-Semitic. But the weird thing about Henry Ford is he also pushed for integration of his factories in Detroit, which is odd. He's very close friends with George Washington Carver. But I to me, like, I can separate that stuff because it doesn't have anything to do with what they produced. And so, when I've talked to people like my parents and stuff about, social justice, all these things, and how they're trying to approach things with a lens of race, of examining everything throughout history, art, and movies, and TV and books and everything through that lens to kind of recontextualize it. So they come it from that perspective to try to find some racist angle to it. Even if it's true, like in terms of the person, the producer of that piece of art is racist, that doesn't mean that what they produce, that racism invalidates that, because that's essentially the argument they make towards the founding fathers,
Mm.
that since founding fathers, many of them owned slaves, that somehow invalidates the Constitution and those values that were incorporated into that document, which it doesn't. And the great thing about America is that even though it wasn't applied to all men and women at that time, as time went on, it did start getting applied to more and more people. And so I'm always hesitant to for myself to shy away from certain people in history that uh, turn out to be really horrible races, and they have art or some piece of engineering or something that I really love. And so,
That's such a great point about asking the same question about can you separate the art from the artist, and applying asking that question of historical figures and the documents that they produced or the principles that they pushed, like the founding fathers. And Little Ragamuffin says in chat, there's a lot to consider about the culture and events going on at the time. People don't take these things into account. We have the benefit of knowing history, but they were living it.
yeah, it's presentism where they judge, the past by today's standards, today's morals. So,
Yeah. I also wanted to, Liz Clothier. Hello, Liz. She says many artists have been awful people. Caravaggio was convicted of murder. Can you put that painting up, Cole? We actually that's interesting. We pulled out a Caravaggio painting, or a couple of them. Caravaggio was convicted of murder, but he made amazing paintings. He did. He was in the 1600s, and he's known for some of his religious paintings. There's one called "The Taking of Christ," where you can see the Roman guards coming and taking Christ away. I think that might be the one that he's going to put on screen. But there were also, yeah, there's that painting. People might recognize that one. But then there were also these disturbing paintings he did paintings of young boys. And a lot of art historians say they're probably boys. He was accused of not just murder, but pedastry.
yeah.
And yet, you see his pieces up still in the museums, and it's not. And one of the questions that you and I were talking about beforehand is, are we okay with his paintings because it was so long ago? Like, no one's trying to cancel him, even though he was a murderer, or yet, but he was a murderer, and he had relationships with young boys, and no one's trying to cancel him. Is it because it was hundreds of years ago?
I think it's part of it, but a lot of people don't even care about art anyway. So I don't think they're concentrating on that quite yet. But I think it's more from, if victims were minorities. So if the
you can
victims
take that one out,
then I don't think people tend to care, because, if social justice folks, if they actually cared about victims, and they would actually care about kids, because kids are really the largest victims. They're not protected. They're not there's no protected class of kids. And so they don't really care about kids. They don't really care about actual victims either. So,
yeah. I just want to say hello to Nicole of the Mountain People, who's in the chat. Hello, Nicole. Thanks for showing up. She says, hi, Keri. Love you to the moon. Hello. So we have a game that we're going to play, and maybe we can talk about these folks afterwards. But this is sort of a test to see, because you said you had some paintings you wanted to show me and see if I could tell which one was painted by an awful person.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So at risk of turning this into the Hitler channel.
Oh, God. We are not
channel's not going to do it. We're
so...
going to do it. All right. So.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, so I gathered a collection of paintings, and one of them is by Adolf Hitler, and I'm going to see if Keri can guess which one.
I've never actually seen his art. I just know he was a painter. So, okay.
All right. Cole, if you could pull up the first PDF I sent you.
Now, Cole was talking to us beforehand, guys, about we were talking about different art and artists, and he was like, what about the guy who did Piss Christ? I don't know if you guys remember that painting. It got a lot of media attention. And that's one where I don't think I have to separate the art from the artist, because his art's disgusting. his art is disgusting. So it's not like, oh, I like this art, but what about the guy? He put himself in his disgusting self in the art, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like, but Hitler, from all accounts that I've heard, his art was just kind of boring landscapes. So maybe let's see if I can pick it out.
Okay, this is the second one. Can you pull up the other one, please? We'll come back to this one. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
So there will be 7 slides, and so when you're ready to move the next slide, just let Cole know.
So how many of them do I get to know? How many of them are by an awful person?
Hitler? Oh, there's only one.
Oh, okay. Are the ones that are not his, are they by somebody that we know, or just like random paintings?
Some are random, some are from some well-known artists, but most of them are random.
Okay. And are there other awful people in here too?
Well, I'm sure there are, but I didn't know. So
okay. Let's play. And what happens if I win?
You get a copy of Mein Kampf.
No, stop. We're not going to last the 3rd episode. I don't think people know how dark your sense of humor is. Okay.
Oh yes. Yeah.
So
I said my cough. That's it's a book I'm writing.
I don't think this is him. This looks too cheery. This looks like it was painted by a Latinx person. Maybe. This looks like this is that like an orange tree? It's hard for me to see. And then it just looks fun and like outdoors in the summertime, maybe in Mexico. Like that just doesn't look like something Hitler would paint.
The strokes, the crazy strokes, I scream like I'm crazy.
No, and it's just a lovely tree. I don't think that's him. Okay, next slide. Are you going to tell me at the end if I got it?
Yeah.
Okay. We're stuck in between slides. Okay. Oh.
Yep.
Wait.
Just scrolling down. Yep. There we go.
That building, right? I think that's him.
Why do you say that?
I seem to recall he painted buildings, not just landscapes, right? Okay, so for right now, I'm going to go with number 2.
Okay.
Was he a failed architect also?
No.
Okay. What other things did he fail in?
Being human.
Being human. Okay. Let's see number 3. Oh, no, that's not him. No, I think I recognize that. Because I recognize that painting. And I don't think he would. He didn't like people. I don't think he would paint people. Right?
You can't see the hate he's scribbling with.
I don't see him as an artist saying, "Let me paint some people."
Okay.
So no.
This one gets a no. Okay.
No. People.
No.
I think you have to have a love of humanity to maybe to do just a painting like this of people out on a stroll or by the water, and I don't think that. I just wouldn't imagine him sitting down at the canvas and being like, "Let me paint some men walking."
Even the muted colors, muted kind of ugly colors now.
Yeah, still no.
Okay.
Paratomsky says he failed in world wars. No. That's not him. That's the colors are too bright, I would say, and just this painting it draws you in. I'm interested about who this woman is, and I would think the person who painted it had to have some regard for her. And I'm just saying what's on the top of my head. So
That doesn't look like him in a wig.
is that why you picked this one?
Would you be surprised?
Oh, Crash says, did he not love his Aryan race? Yeah, that's true. He did. Yeah, but did he really though? I don't know. I just think a person like that probably despises all of humanity and uses race as a thing to enact resentment in murderous form, right? Like that's. Oh, somebody's spoiling it. They said that's a Gacy. Is that a?
No.
Oh, okay. No spoilers. Okay, let's go to the next one. Oh, okay. I might change my vote to this one.
Why?
Because it's just buildings and a landscape, which I mean, I guess that's cheating. I think that's what I heard he painted. So, and it just looks kind of boring. The kind of thing that might cause you great anger if you didn't get famous for. I'm switching my vote to this one.
Okay.
No, not him.
That was clearly painted by a madman.
This one? No. This is not painted by him though, because he was an authoritarian, and I would imagine he would paint with very rigid lines and structure, and this is like an impressionist, or this is a person who's like having fun with the paint and making the trees look almost like clouds, and like a kid with finger paints, like this is not an authoritarian didn't paint this.
Okay. So you're pretty certain on number 6, you said?
Number 6.
Okay. Well, Keri, you should have stayed with number 2.
Number 2.
Number 2.
Oh, but look, I was right? Look at number 2.
You were. Your instincts were right.
It's all rigid lines. Look at that.
Very gray and muddy. Yeah.
That's
perspectives
an authoritarian.
all off.
Yeah. Yep. That's totally what an authoritarian would paint. So, do you know about the history? Because Cole and I were talking. I've often heard that he had a lot of resentment because he was a failed artist. Is that just part of the myth, or is there any truth in that?
Yeah, there's truth in that. He did apply to art school, but didn't get in. And I think it was his roommate got in, and so he made a little bit of money selling his art, his watercolors and oil paintings on the street, and I believe in Vienna or somewhere in Austria. But he obviously never got the success that he wanted, and so yeah, there we are.
So I have a game for you. It'll be shorter than that one, but this is similar. I don't know if people know about. I've been Cameron Pasha turned me on to this book called Chaos, which is about the Manson family. It's a reinvestigation into Charles Manson and his ties with the CIA, and it challenges the whole story that we thought we knew if you followed the narrative as set by Bugliosi, who wrote the book Helter Skelter and who prosecuted the case. And it kind of turns a lot of that narrative on its head. And in reading that, though, I was reminded about how Charles Manson, he wanted to be a musician. He wanted to be a famous artist. And he had worked his way kind of into the outskirts of the music scene at the time in Los Angeles. And he would go to a lot of these parties and rub elbows with, I think he was sort of in the same circles as like even the Mamas and the Papas in some cases. But the person he became closest to in the music world was Dennis Wilson from the Beach Boys. And even staying at his house, and a bunch of the Manson girls were staying at his house for a while. And so Dennis Wilson, he wrote a song. Did you know that? Charles Manson wrote a song for the Beach Boys.
Wait, what?
Yes, it was called Cease to Exist. They changed the name of it to Never Learn Not to Love. Do you guys know that song? That Beach Boys song was written by Charles Manson, and he was actually really angry because I think when they put it on the album, I don't know if they gave him co-writing credit or not, but whatever they gave him, it didn't satisfy him, and so I think that you can imagine that probably generated some resentment on his part. But the other thing that happened is that Dennis Wilson introduced him to this famous music producer, Terry Melcher, and Terry Melcher lived at the house that Roman Polanski and Sharon Tate ended up moving into. Did you know that part?
I didn't.
Yeah, so Terry Melcher lived at Cielo Drive, and he was married to Candace Bergen. How do you say her name?
Oh, Bergen, I believe that's.
Yeah. And so Dennis Wilson had set up this meeting. He kept bragging and talking up Charles Manson, the Manson family, as musicians. And so Melcher finally met with him. He had an audition. He went out to the ranch and met with the Manson family and the Manson girls, and they sang like some hippie songs for him. And he ultimately rejected him and did not sign him to a record label. And that just, according to the story, of course, that just really caused a lot of resentment. But so I knew the story about his connection to the Beach Boys, but I didn't know that he had put out his own music or that you can find it. And so I'm going to play 2 songs for you, and you tell me which one is by an awful person. By Charles Manson. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Well, I can't play the whole thing because I don't even know if there might be a copyright. I wonder if there's a copyright on this terrible music. Okay. Let me see if I can figure out how to do this. Share screen. Okay. Close your eyes because I think it's going to show the YouTube video. Close your eyes. I'll tell you when you can open them.
Okay.
Let's see. Chrome. No, let's play that one first. Okay. Tell me if you can hear this.
I can hear it.
Two little boys had 2 little toys. Each had
Listening to the lyrics. See, the lyrics might.
Gaily they played each.
Okay, that's all I'm going to play because I don't want to get a copyright strike.
Okay.
Okay, so close your eyes again.
Okay.
I'm going to play one other. Okay, the audience you saw, so you can tell. Don't tell him. Okay, you can open your eyes.
Okay.
There's a time for living.
Wow.
The time keeps on flying. Think you're loving, baby, and all you're doing is crying. Can you feel? Those feelings real. Look at.
Huh. Which song would I write if I was a crazy mass murderer?
Which one? First or second one?
Something just says the second one. Something about the second one just seems. I can just picture his crazy ass playing guitar in front of his crazy little horde of women. I'm gonna go with number 2.
You're correct. You win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My way to being a murderer.
Yeah. Do you know who that first one was?
No, who was it?
So that was a rare song by John Denver.
I was about to say John Denver because it did kind of sound like it. But then like the lyrics started off saying something about a little boy, so I was like, well, maybe that's Manson.
No. But hey, along the same lines of our conversation, Anthony and I were driving on a trip for his music last year, and we were going through Colorado, and so we started listening to John Denver, and his music is just so kind of it's from that era. It's just such calming kind of hippie music, and I was thinking, gosh, his music is just so positive and peace and hip. I wonder if he was a terrible person. And so but you never know. And so I looked it up, and he wasn't a terrible person, but there's terrible stories though, just like with any human. Yeah. He actually, he was a bad alcoholic. He had his flight license taken away from him. Because he would fly his own planes. That's how he died. Yeah, that's how he died. He was on tour, and his wife, they used to have these fights when he was out on the road, and he came back from tour, and she had cut down a bunch of his favorite trees. And so he drunkenly took the chainsaw and went into the house and sawed their bed in half. Oh, jeez. And then Nicole says drunks are not necessarily terrible people, Keri. I know. Of course. You're talking to a drunk. I used to be a professional, okay? I just mean, you wouldn't think with his music that he has this like drunken chainsaw fight where he like sawed the bed in half and he sawed the kitchen cabinets in half. And I was just think, and then you hear his music like Rocky Mountain High.
And in his head, he's thinking, kill, destroy. Must resist. Right. Must resist voices. Right. Well, that's kind of like Bob Ross. Maybe we talk about Bob Ross in a future episode, but he had a little bit of a dark past. Not like super dark, but again, same thing with you and John Denver. I always wondered if, I just said his name. Bob Ross had a dark past because he just seemed like someone who would have like a rough past, but then like found Jesus and mellowed out in his older age and just like painted happy trees and squirrels.
Like me. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Actually, I know we're getting off the subject now. Can you separate the art from the artist? But did you see the Bob Ross documentary that came out?
I did. It was okay documentary. I already knew a lot of stuff because I read an article, and actually I sent you an article. I put it in our little spreadsheet. But yeah, I wasn't as surprised by some of that stuff. Again, I already knew some of that, but like we were talking about earlier about how many historical figures have kind of dark past. You just automatically kind of assume that there is stuff, maybe not to the degree as certain people throughout history, but as you say, everyone's kind of has a little something, and so I wasn't very surprised to find out some of the stuff and the alleged affairs and stuff like
that. Just to clarify something, Scott Miller says he did not go after his wife with the chainsaw. No, he did not. He saw the bed in half. the marital bed. Yeah. Well, I think that's it. We're trying to keep these shorter and not do the long rambling 2-hour things. It's been about an hour. Do you think we should wrap it up?
Yeah, I think it's good.
Thank you guys for hanging out with us tonight. We have a subscribe star that's now set up. Cole, if he can drop the link in the chat. Thank you, Mr. Chris, and for getting all the art together. And thanks, Cole, for running the tech. And thank you guys for being here.
Bye.
I forget all the things to say. Like and subscribe. Oh, we're a brand new channel. This is on a new channel. So if you're not subscribed yet, hit subscribe. Take care, guys.
Okay.
Oh, wait.
All right, that is. Or boomer moments.
I need to have a post-it note that tells me how to end broadcast. Okay. Steven says, good night and God bless everyone. Okay, now end.